Now we will start the next session. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Mamili Ravish Shankar, Associate Professor, IIT Tirupati. He holds his MTech and PhD from Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur, India. His research group focuses on micro-nano manufacturing, sustainable manufacturing, precision 3D printing, online monitoring, biomanufacturing, coatings, tribology, and rheology. His lab also involves in development of lab-scale innovations to commercial manufacturing products, paper-to-product technologies. He has published over 50 in internationally reputed journals, 80 international conferences, 6 patents, 2 edited books, and 10 book chapters. Presently, his lab possesses with various funding from BARC, DST, DRDL, MEITY, BR, BIRAC, SERB, IIT Guwahati, IIT Tirupati of about 30 million rupees as a principal investigator and 600 million rupees as co-investigator. Thank you, sir. Now I would like to hand over the session to Ravi Shankar, sir.
Thank you, madam. So, can I start?
Yes, sir. Please share your screen.
Yes. I'm just sharing. I think screen is visible.
Yes, sir. Please.
Can I go ahead?
PPT. In PPT mode, can you please? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now it is okay.
Yeah. So, thank you, Tanya ji and Professor Swadesh ji. As Professor Swadesh ji said that I am I may not attend many times, but I attended few times. At the same time, my contribution for ICMPC was always there every year. So it's my pleasure always that, and I am one of the members he has considered for me as some of the core members and other things. Thank you, Swadesh ji, for all the support and confidence on me and trust that you are putting on me. So thank you, one and all. Let me start my technical presentation. So this particular presentation, I want to keep it open to many people. So a lot of images and other things so that people can understand in a better way. The second point is I don't want to concentrate mostly on what is viscosity, what is kinematic viscosity, what is dynamic viscosity and other things. See, that all the things that you can learn from a book or that you can even learn from YouTube videos also. Okay. So what I did in the presentation is that I am going to present you some of the basics which you know already, and because some of them may be the students, so I am just giving an overview about slightly about the rheology. Then I move on to 3 practical cases that particularly my lab and my co-researchers labs handles on. Okay, so rheology. So maybe for the mechanical engineers, exactly core mechanical engineers may not be in touch with, but they know what is rheology. But rheology is nothing but the science of flow and deformation. So there is a flow as well as a deformation. So for mechanical terms, flow of the fluid or semi-solids you can consider, and deformation of the solids and other things. Okay, so as you can see in this one, rheo means flow, logos means science, and ology means study. A study of or science of the flow and deformation is nothing else. So whoever come across the liquids or semi-solids, mostly in mechanical engineering, have to study about the rheological aspects. And many people work in the area of metal cutting, but people may not know how the metal cutting or the machining or the conventional type of machining processes involves rheological aspects. One is cutting fluid flow analysis, and the penetration of the cutting fluid always is nothing but the flow, and the deformation, as you know, the plastic deformation and other things that takes place in the shear zones of the machining zone. Okay, that itself is a basic rheology for a mechanical engineers. Okay, so this is about the history. So Isaac Newton. So it is normally the rheology is published in the scientific book called the Principia. So the resistance which rises from the lack of slipperiness is proportional to the velocity. And there are many definitions that you can come across. In 19th century, scientists discovered the solids with liquid-like responses and liquids with solid-like responses. So that means that it has a unique features which a human has to understand. That is what the meaning of that sentence. In the today, rheology is an integral part of industry, and now it is also integral part of academia also, because many academia, especially chemical engineers, biotechnology people, and nowadays mechanical people also uses lot of rheology for their research. So people know what is a rheology. This is nothing but the, I don't know why it is called. Okay. So the rheology of the fluids, it has a fluid behaviors. Normally, you know that it is a Newtonian, non-Newtonian. In non-Newtonian, you have time dependent and time independent. In time dependent, you have thixotropic, rheopeptic. In time independent, you have shear thinning and shear thickening and other things. Okay. But what I can suggest to you is, in the most of the cases, people talk about the non-Newtonian only, because most of the things that we daily encounter is basically a non-Newtonian fluids. If you see here, shear rate versus viscosity, or some people they also say shear stress also they plot. You can see this is which is proportional. Normally in a rheology, people says shear rate. So always the one word in between shear and rate is missing. Okay, but in a common language, they call it as shear rate, but it is called shear strain rate. Okay, so whenever I represent or whenever I tell the shear rate means it is shear strain rate. Okay, so shear rate when is proportional to viscosity, normally that you can call it as a Newtonian fluid. If I don't know why. So if the shear, as the shear rate increases, if the viscosity going down, if you can see here, that is called shear thinning fluid. If the viscosity increases, that means that shear thinning fluid. How the viscosity increases, how viscosity decreases, and other things you will come across in the upcoming slides. What is, if you know how a rheometer look like, then you can understand what is shearing effect and whether this shearing effect is decreasing the viscosity or increasing the viscosity. If it is decreasing, what is the phenomena? If it is increasing, what is the phenomena? And other fluids are, you can see Bingham plastic fluids and other things. You can see in the Bingham plastic fluid, normally are the Cashan fluids. These are viscoplastic fluids. Okay, so you can see they are starting at certain point on the y-axis. Okay, so that is nothing but your minimum viscosity or the shears. Normally it should be a shear stress that on this one y-axis. If you assume that you are taking a paste and you are putting on a brush, until unless you exert some pressure or some stress on it, the flow of the paste won't start. That is the best example for this particular Bingham plastic fluids. Okay, so that is a common example. So viscosity, as you can see here, viscosity is a resistance to flow. As you are seeing in this particular picture, the flow of the fluid is very high in first one. As you go on to the last one, flow of the fluid is minimal. I cannot say zero, it is minimal. That means that the viscosity is increasing gradually. So how to measure rheology in or how to measure various rheological properties. That we will see in the upcoming slides. So there are tests. In olden days, people uses to test this rheological characterization or either by qualitative test. Qualitative test means, for example, X person is good boy. Okay, that is a qualitative statement. What is a quantitative statement? X person is 80% good boy is a quantitative statement. So people in olden days, they follow qualitative test. How? That is called trowel test. Just what they will do, they will take a trowel and just pick the fluid and they hold it for some time and they observe whether it is. Only thing they can say is they cannot say the quantitative value. For example, it is 100 or 200 or whatever the things. Okay, they can say whether it is a thick fluid or a thin fluid. That much is, it's called qualitatively. They can say this is a thick fluid or it is a thin fluid. So there is another test. If you don't have the trowel and other things, you can do with your finger test. So trachy for the long distances, less trachy for the shorter distances. Okay. So don't do this finger test because of the COVID effect and other things are there going on. Okay. So olden days people are not aware of all these things and they used to do. So this is one of the conventional way of qualitative test. Okay. Standard measurements later found, because whenever your customer comes to you, they will ask what is the viscosity of it, what is the shear stress or shear strength of this particular material and other things. Okay, for that particular thing, as the time progresses, there is a quantitative measurement techniques came. One is the oscillation viscometer and vibrational viscometer and falling piston viscometer and a rotational viscometer as well as falling spear viscometer. These are the varieties of this, particularly for the measurement of rheological properties. Among all these things, nowadays, most popular thing is rotational viscometer. Okay, in the rotational viscometer, you can go with TA instruments or whether you go with Anton Par or any type of commercially available rheometers. Most of the people will go for three common geometries, that is called parallel plate geometry, cone and plate geometry, and concentric cylinders. So whenever you have a liquid type of thing, then you should prefer a concentric cylinders type of thing. And you can also prefer cone and plate, but cone and plate and parallel plate normally prefer for semi-solid. Okay, so this is about the geometries that you can use in particularly for the basic characterization of the rheological aspects. As I said, rotational rheometers are mostly used across the globe. That's why I am concentrating mostly on rotational viscometers. At the same time, most of the fluids that one person or many persons in their daily life, from eating the food to all the things, will come across is mostly viscoelastic fluids. That's why most of my presentation goes with viscoelastic fluids with rotational type of rheometers. Okay, so why rotational type of rheometers are mostly famous? So these are well-defined geometry, and this device apply constant torque or rotational speed, and it maintains symmetry, and many advantages are there that you can see in the upcoming slides. There are multiple modes in the rotational viscometry or rotational type of rheological characterization. So one thing is this, whatever you are seeing is an Anton Par, which is one of the world mostly selling rheometers, which we also have in our laboratories. So one is rotational type of thing where you have top plate and bottom plate. These things you will see in the schematic images in upcoming slide. You have bottom plate and top plate. You can, as you can see here, if you can able to see my cursor here, there is a tool master. This is the tool master, and there is a bottom plate. Bottom plate is fixed, and tool master can be rotatable basically. Okay. So it can be operated in two ways. One is rotation. That means that continuously you can make a circle out of it. That is for shear stress test and viscosity, basic viscosity test. Another. There is called, another one is dynamic one, that is called oscillation you can give. So bottom plate is fixed. In between you have a semi-solid medium, and top plate you are giving a oscillation motion. Whatever the motion that you are seeing here is for the top plate only. So these can be tested for the rotational test, tensile test, and shear test and other things. So rheology of viscoelastic fluids. Why you are going to use the viscoelastic fluids? In the normally these viscoelastic fluids has two variations. One is viscous and another one is elastic natures. Okay, so viscous materials normally store the energy, elastic materials disperse the energy, but these particular materials have viscous and elastic both natures. How these things will disperse the energy? Normally these are the long chain polymers. How the polymers will represent this by the polymer networks or polymer chains basically. These chains can store energy if they are elastically dominating. If they are having the viscous nature, that will release. Okay, so for example, water is viscous dominating. So as you throw it, it will follow the path of whatever the direction it will give. So, but if you take an eraser, if you sit along with your children and they are erasing their drawings, so you press on it. When you try to press on it, what will happen? It deforms in the perpendicular direction. At the same time, it will store the energy inside. Okay. So why we are going for mostly viscoelastic fluids? As you see, ideal liquid normally water, and ideal solids normally, because perfect solids are ideal solids. There is nothing like perfect and other thing. In between, you come across many materials. Those are all mostly viscoelastic things. In the viscoelastic, you have two varieties: viscoelastic liquids and you have viscoelastic solids, which is nothing but the semi-solids basically. Basically, if you see the range of face creams, whatever you apply, Fair and Handsome, Fair and Lovely, these are all are to be tested rheologically, because it has to flow as per the requirement. At the same time, it has to rub against your face. It has to rub against your body. So these are all to be tested properly as per the rheological studies is concerned. So almost all the solid foods and fluid type of foods, ranging from food starch to gums, grains, most of the solid food, cheese, pasta, these are all come under the one category that is called viscoelastic fluids. That's why we are concentrating mostly on viscoelastic fluids and semi-solids. At the same time, I will also give you one glimpse of what is the future of rheology, where people can get some knowledge and they can go ahead further. That is called biorheology. Biorheology, where bioorganisms and the viscoelastic fluids or rheological fluids are incorporated. That also I will talk at the final slides. So three things that I am going to start here. What are the practical conditions that we exclusively do at our particular laboratory and our collaborators' laboratories? So first and foremost is the basic thing that I want to start, where liquid characteristics are dominating. However, these fluids are slightly viscoelastic. So second is polymer rheological fluids for finishing applications. So these are dominating viscoelastic solid characteristics. The first one is elastic liquid characteristics. Second one is viscoelastic dominating solid characteristics. Then we will go ahead with bioinks or injectable scaffolds, hydrogels and other things, how the cells and other things can be done by the rheology. These are the applications. Why I am concentrating, as I said, basic rheology you can get at any time from the YouTube and other things. Only thing that you may not get, as per my understanding, is practically how you can use the basic knowledge of rheology to the practical applications. Okay. Many of the people, when you ask what is a null set, people tell the definition, but how to use in practical situation of the sets and relations and other things may not be known. Okay. For example, you can correlate if a person is standing and if we take a photograph. So a person is a 3D and the photo is a 2D. So what about the points that are there on the back side of the human? So those are all points going to the zero of the photograph. So this is how the practical knowledge can be incorporated among the students and other things. So my motto was to explain you the practical conditions of rheological characterization to the basics of mechanical engineering. The first and foremost is rheological characterization of the cutting fluids. People, if you are a mechanical engineering teacher, the first and foremost thing you come across is normal machining operations. From the second year BTech onwards, students as well as the lab instructors and other things. The most important thing here is whenever you see a machining process, lot of temperature will be there. So temperature will be there, friction will be there, and this type of problems will be there in a machining process. If you see in the primary shearing zone and secondary shearing zone, as you can see the video, it is just the fire is going on where you can see a lot of temperature. At the same time, tool is rubbing against the workpiece, that is flank surface is rubbing against the workpiece, and the chip is very, very hot. As you can see, the lump of the chip is forming there, which is red color, and that is making a rubbing action as well as thermal conducting of the heat to the rake surface of the tool. This has to be controlled. Okay, as you can see here, we are showing the single point cutting tool with respect to a machining condition where your built-up edge formation is seen in the sticking region and there is abrasive marks on the sliding region. These are to be minimized. You cannot stop these things. However, you can minimize it. How you can minimize? You can minimize by using the cutting fluids. Now, I want to use the cutting fluids. If I want to use the cutting fluids, being a basic mechanical engineer, what you will do is, you just go and do the cutting fluid, use the cutting fluid and measure the cutting forces, temperature and other things. People are not interested in all those things if you are going for a publication. So what I strongly suggest to the people who are observing is, you should also look at the other angles of cutting fluids or others outside the box of the machining. That is one of the things that you can see is rheological characterization. And you can use various cutting fluids that you are going to generate. You can generate your cutting fluids as per your requirement. If you know the thermal conductivity of each particular cutting fluid, thermal convective heat transfer coefficient of cutting fluids, you can mix, make a blend. And people nowadays, I am seeing and reviewing many publications on bio-cutting fluids or green cutting fluids. So in this particular condition or the case study, what we are going to do is, we are comparing the rheological characterization of commercial mineral oils that you can get from the market. For example, I am not branding or something. Servocut S, Servocut SS. So there are many companies are there. Bio-cutting fluids, you can develop your own bio-cutting fluids, and only thing is that you should characterize properly. Okay, in the present condition, whatever you are seeing is AMCR 102 is a model, and rheological characterization is done with a concentric cylinder. As I specifically said, whenever you have a cutting fluid or a liquid dominating fluids, you should always go with a concentric cylinders, and this is the concentric cylinder. As you can see, the cutting fluid is filled as per the guidelines of the rheometer, and this is what the tool master, this is concentric cylinder tool master. Okay, so if you see here the shear viscosity, okay, so normally you are doing a shear set test, so you also observe the shear viscosity versus shear rate. How to measure shear rate and other things you will see in the upcoming slides for abrasive fluids. So normally shear rate is one of the input parameters that you can give on the rheometers, and you can see the first one is conducted at the room temperature, which is about the AC temperature of 20 degrees. There is no much change with shear viscosity, it is constant. However, normally metal cutting fluids will experience the temperature. So we also conducted one test at 100 degrees temperature. Okay, so you can see as these things, the viscosity will increase because you are using, in the present condition, whatever we are using water also. As the temperature goes up, water content will decrease, and it will be slightly difficult from the point of capillary action to impinge or penetrate into the chip tool region. Otherwise, or what you can use is, you can use the high pressure coolant systems to penetrate in a much better way. Okay, so you can also check with respect to how the viscosity is decreasing and other things. Viscosity will decrease. Okay, so with respect to what you are going to see here is viscosity of the mineral oil and viscosity of the biocutting fluid. Both are approximately similar in the range. Why I am saying this particular thing is, if you see about the sustainable aspects of the machining, you always prefer to go biocutting fluids. There is one conference in BITS Pilani campus, but they are organizing in Jaipur on sustainable issues. That is one of the big conferences organized by CIRP. So people who are interested, they can look it. And unfortunately, the last date is tomorrow only. Okay, that's I was about to I'm just informing you life cycle assessment and other things people do. Okay, so from that temperature analysis, you can calculate activation energy and apparent activation energy. You can calculate for BioCut using these equations, okay, which is Arrhenius equation. What I mean to say from this particular data, what we have got is the activation energy is the energy provided to the cutting fluid or whatever the fluid, whichever you have two fluids, one is biocutting fluid, another one is a petroleum based cutting fluid. These two cutting fluid, if you are going to use 28.5, that means that is going to react and it is going to give the chemical gases. So that means that from the point of emissions, which is dangerous, two angles you have to understand. One is dangerous gases are going to evolve at the same time at low activation energy for the mineral oil. But biocutting fluid that we have developed and we have used, these particular things it require more energy to dissipate and give the gases. However, green cutting fluid has better composition, so there won't be much danger from the point of gases. Okay, the second thing that we are going to see is rheology or polymer rheological abrasive fluids. How these polymer rheological abrasive fluids are fabricated, at the same time how rheology is most important for these particular things. As you can see here, if a particular person want to finish a filter that you are seeing here, small micro holes are there. These things you need to polish. It is very difficult for the person manually to polish. However, it will take lot of time from the abrasive finishing point of time also. At the same time, conventionally, I guess it takes hell a lot of time. At the same time, you can see here in the first image where you can see the yellow one is your workpiece, which is a impeller. It has to be polished automatically by a fluid. The fluid has to take the shape of this one. So you need abrasive fluids which can take the shape on application of certain hydraulic power energy, hydraulic power. Okay, for that purpose, we have designed and developed the abrasive flow finishing process. I am not going to talk about abrasive flow finishing process, which is one of the commercially patented technology by our research group. But most important here is the medium. Okay, whatever you are seeing here, blue, red, and yellow, these are the polymer rheological fluids or semi-solids. These are clubbed with abrasive particles and pressurizes across the holes or the workpieces. As you can see here, the bottom, you have a low viscous fluid. Whenever you are pressurizing, it is taking this type of shape. When you are having high viscous medium, that means that rheological characteristics values are very high in terms of viscosity and other things. It will go as a solid. Okay. So now you can see here, there are, as you can see in the previous slide and this slide, you have three varieties of polymer rheological fluids. One is high viscous, medium viscous, and low viscous fluids. These are the commercially supplied by Extrude Hone, one of the company from US. At the same time, this composition will be a base polymers, rheological additives, because you have to play with the rheology, then only this particular medium will. So in our case, whatever the patented technologies that we have 8 to 10 minimum ingredients to make this particular medium as a viscoelastic thing. Okay. So you can see here the basic thing that I want for the rheological fluid. So if it is a complex contours are to be polished, you cannot polish by a solid tools. These are to be polished by rheological fluids, and these rheological fluids should have viscoelastic nature. Why viscoelastic nature and other things we will see in the couple of slides later. Okay, so this particular medium should have three minimum properties. One is self-deformability, and deformation is one of the properties of rheology, and better flowability. That means that the flow and deformation is nothing but the rheology. So it should have self-deformability. Deformability is a part of rheology. Flowability is a part of rheology, and better abrading ability is an additional feature that we want. How to come up? You can see here. So our viscoelastic fluids are placed and some pressure is applied. Now I was telling you that we want viscoelastic nature. You take the polymer. Hope you are seeing my cursor. There is a red square here. You am taking a viscoelastic element here. If I apply certain pressure or a shear force, what will happen? There will be a motion along the shear force and perpendicular to shear force. Along the shear force is because of the viscous nature, and perpendicular to it is a radial. That is nothing but your elastic nature. As I said, you take water and you take eraser. If I put water along the shear force direction, what will happen? The water will flow along the direction. But if I press in one direction, it will move in some perpendicular direction. So that technology has been adopted in the viscoelastic fluids, and you can see here for that purpose, you have an abrasive particle here. We have a viscoelastic medium. Because of the viscous, you are going to get axial force. Because of the elastic nature, you are going to get a radial force. These two are going to apply simultaneously so that you are going to finish the surfaces. These are the probable technologies that the people, most of the people uses for finishing fluids. As I said, these particular fluids require some of the unique rheological properties. It requires flow like a fluid. That means that you make a spherical ball of this particular fluid and put on a flat surface. It should, what will happen after a few minutes is it is going to become flat on the bottom side. That means that it is deforming its on your own. But that means that it is deforming by the virtue of the atmospheric pressures. It behaves like an elastic ball. If I make a spherical ball and hit on the surface, it jumps like a ball. So breaks like a plastic piece. That means that whenever you are pulling at very faster rates, it is going to break as a plastic piece. That means that the same medium which I am developing or which the finishing people are developing, it flows like a fluid, it jumps like an elastic ball and breaks like a plastic piece. So these are the three characteristics are unique characteristics, and you need to quantify all these things. How do you quantify? You can only quantify by rheological characterization. So how do you do the rheological characterization? You can do the rheological characterization by steady state rheology, where it is independent of the time, and dynamic rheology. In the steady state rheological characterization, you do the flow properties as well as creep compliance and creep recovery test and other things. And in dynamic test, you can do the stress sweep as well as a strain sweep, frequency sweep and other things. You can see here the schematic where you might have not understood in the previous slides. This red one, whatever you are seeing, is the bottom plate where it is also having a heating coil. If you are going to do at room temperature, you don't give any heat. If at all you want to do the rheological characterization with respect to temperature, normally you will give this particular thing. Okay. The above one is the rotational top plate or tool master. In between you have the medium, which is semi-solid that you can see on the top three materials are there. You just make one of the samples and put these samples. Only top plate can be rotated and the bottom plate is fixed. However, bottom plate has ability to heat the sample. Now you can see here the shear rate versus shear stress. As just I want to show you similar graph you will get after one slide. Okay. So now I want to explain you how to measure the shear rate first. For that purpose only, why you have to measure the shear rate and why you require the shear stress. So shear stress of particularly any material, for example, you take aluminum alloy, silicon carbide, metal matrix composite, you know the shear strength of the material. Okay, so you need to make that particular material composition. Whenever you are applying, the shear stress that you are applying should be higher than that one. Then only material removal will take place. Okay. So now the most important thing here is how to measure the shear rate. For example, in my condition of abrasive flow finishing, I use our own system to measure the shear rate. How to measure? There is another one variety of rheological characterization that is called capillary rheometry or capillary based rheological characterization. What you do is, in this particular thing, you make a chamber where you put your fluid and you apply your extrusion pressure in your setup itself. Abrasive flow finishing you have seen in the, so you can apply it and you can collect the discharge. That means that shear rate equal to 4V by 5R cube into T. That means where V is volumetric material that you are collecting in the collector, T is the time, which is nothing but the discharge, and 5R cube, where R is the radius of this particular tube. Normally in the practically how it look like is this. This particular tube normally will be more than 1:18. That is a normal thing on rheological aspect. If at all you want to know basics about rheology, you can study the book by Professor Mokasco. So now we have measured with respect to various plasticizers. Normally, plasticizers means these are low molecular weight materials. You don't bother about all these things. But if you see the shear rates, what by using the equations, whatever we have seen in the capillary rheometer, we can measure the shear rates. And now what I have to do is, from this experiment, most important is measuring the shear rate, and you have to observe what is the range of shear rates my particular experiment is working. Okay, you may be measuring the shear rates in one range and you are doing your further experiments in another range. That should not happen. So my shear rates are in the range of 0.04. Assume that for the safe side, it is 0.03 to 0.1 or 0.11. This is the range of shear rates. Now, once I know the shear rates, I am going to put those shear rates and I am giving some tolerances towards on both sides, and I am measuring the rheological properties. If you see here, so most important thing from this particular curve is, as you increase the shear rate, the viscosity in the first region and second region is increasing, and the third region it is decreasing. Okay, so why it is decreasing? As you can see here, you have seen the rheometer plate. If I am using a shear rate, that means that my top plate is rotating. So low shear rate means it is rotating at low speeds, where if I am rotating at high shear rates means it is rotating at faster rates. Okay, as my shear rate increases, what will happen? Slowly my polymer molecular chains are climbing each other and making a unity and obstructing the rotation of the top plate. That means that the top plate require more torque to rotate at the specified rotational speed. So that means that the torque is indirectly correlated with the software, and it will convert into the viscosity at shear stress. That's why as the polymer chains climbs onto each other, the viscosity will increase. Okay, as you can see here, you cannot see any one graph, a black one or blue one or yellow one and other things. But every person has their own strength, beyond which if I am going to apply more and more torque to my top plate, what will happen? It breaks and aligns in the direction of the rotation. Okay, that's why you can see the broken things of the polymer chains and this in the second region. But what is the most important for particularly for your experiment is, my polymer molecular chains should not break. That is the ultimate. But if there is a minute breakage, still okay. That means if you see my previous one, my range of experiments is below 0.1 shear stress. So if I see the shear stress ranges below 0.1, see, I am observing there is no breakage or minimal breakage. That means that my experiments are conducted with the better polymer molecular chains or better polymer networks. If you see among the curves here, what is you are going to observe is, now you see observe all the curves, and you see here 0.75 plasticizer to 12.5 plasticizer. As I said, polymers are high molecular weight materials and plasticizers are low molecular weight materials. Okay, if you see from 7.5 to 12.5, the viscosity is reducing. Why the viscosity is reducing? It is reducing because low molecular weight materials, that is plasticizers, you can see at the bottom in the initial stage, these blue lines which are non-linear lines, these are nothing but my polymer molecular chains. When I am mixing or blending with a low molecular weight materials like plasticizers, what will happen? Low molecular weight materials try to go between or penetrate between high molecular weight polymer chains and try to kick apart. So the interpolymer molecular distance will increase and interpolymer molecular strength will decrease. So In normal cases, polymer chains will have dominating elastic characteristics. By incorporating plasticizer, I can manipulate or I can imbibe the viscous characteristics. Now, how much viscous characteristics I want to imbibe and other things will be known from some of the other rheological characterizations. But from this particular curve, if you see here, as you increase the low molecular weight polymers or the plasticizer, which are nothing but the oils, distance between polymer molecular chains increases, and the strength between or the interpolymer molecular force of attraction will decrease. That means that you are imbibing the viscous nature to a dominating elastic characteristics polymer. Now the question is how much viscous nature you want, how much elastic nature you want, because viscous nature is going to push along the direction of the pressure and elastic nature is going to indent on the surface to scratch the surface or to remove the surface. Now for that you need to do creep recovery test. Whatever you are seeing here in a creep recovery test, A to B is viscoelastic nature and B to C is elastic nature. Now $1 million question here is, what is the stress that I am going to apply? So in a creep recovery test, what I am observing is I am observing the strain with respect to time. So by applying a load, that is the stress, or in terms of rheometry, you call it as a shear stress. So now whether I have to apply 1 kg or 100 kg or 200 kg or 1 Newton, we don't know. For that particular thing, you need to do dynamic rheology, which you can see at the bottom. There is a storage modulus versus shear stress. Whenever you do this particular experiment, what you are changing here is I am changing the shear stress and observing the storage modulus and loss modulus. Storage modulus is nothing but energy storage inside the polymer molecular networks. As I am increasing my shear stress, there is no change in storage modulus up to certain thing, then there is a non-linearity. That means even though I am changing shear stress in particular this region, there is no change in storage modulus. That means my polymer molecular chains are at original strength and they are not broken. In a non-linear range, it is broken. That means whenever I want to conduct my polishing experiments for fluid, my polymer molecules chains should not break. That means that I can take any particular value in this linear viscoelastic range, that is called LVE range. Assume that this is normally the value will be 100 Pascal. I can take this particular shear stress and I can put for the next viscoelastic experiment. I am putting 100 Pascal, I am shearing it and I am holding for 500 seconds and I am releasing. So A to B is viscoelastic nature, B to C is my elastic nature. Okay. So now I know what is a viscoelastic effect and elastic effect. I can find my viscous nature. So from this particular curve, I can understand what is the radial force that particular medium is going to put, what is the axial force it is going to put. So you can see here, viscous component we have measured, and as you can see here, viscous component is very less. What is happening? That means your elastic component is more. Elastic component is more means your radial force is very more. That means that indentation is very more. That's why you have got, you can see the atomic force microscopy image where indentations are more. But at good viscous and elastic combination, you can get a nano surface. That means that you are going to have better flowing ability because of the viscous nature, better upbraiding ability or indenting ability because of optimum elastic natures. These are the applications. You can polish the acetabular sockets and other acetabular heads for the biomedical applications, and many applications are there. The people also uses extensively for biomedical applications such as knee implants, hip implant, heart valves, many applications people uses. You can see in the last one, before and after. This is how the people manufactures and after the finishing. If you are not going to do finishing action, the surface roughness is very high. The body fluids has tendency to stay at the valleys of the surface and may damage your knee. So it is suggested to go for finishing of the knee implant and uses it. So thermal aspects, as I said, temperature effect. If you see, as you increase the temperature, so now what I want is, today I am going to use my particular fluid for big workpieces, knee implants and other things. Tomorrow I got a small component. How to do? So the abrasive flow finishing or the medium, the polymer rheological medium can vary its viscosity with respect to time. As you can see, today with the high viscosity you can do big workpieces, and low viscosity you can do the turbine blades and other things. Only thing is that you can play with respect to temperature, or you can have some temperature effect on your polymer rheological fluids, and you can do it. So one of the projects that we are doing is drug eluting stents. As I said, we are extensively doing on biomedical. So this is one of the applications that we are doing for polishing of micro machining and nano polishing of drug eluting stents. So one of the feature that many people are already working at IITs and many big institutes and the NITs, also some of the NITs. So what I strongly suggest you is, you can venture into some of the biorheology, that is nothing but rheological aspects of biofluids. So biofluids, for example, if you see here, so previously whenever the people are going to have a bone fracture, people used to have, I am saying about small fractures, hairline fractures and other things. I'm not saying about big fractures. That is a kind note for all the people. So people are going to have screws and pins and cortical screws and other things. Nowadays technology has grown up. So what you can do is, you can inject it. So you can inject the biodegradable based, thermosensitive hydrogels. Okay, and you, because of this thermosensitiveness, what is happening is, at room temperature it is a liquid, and at your body temperature of 37 degrees it will become a solid. But as you know, the but is very dangerous in English. Whenever this transformation in between these, this injectable scaffolds, whatever you are injecting, it is flowing between the bones of male and female part, at the same time deforming as per the complex bone fracture and solidifying. So flowability is there, deformation is there. The science of flow and deformation is nothing but the rheology. And most important for injectable scaffolds are biofluids, in particularly to the orthopedics is concerned, is the rheological aspects. You can see if there is a bone fracture or any type of things are there, you can do inject, and you can observe the rheological characterization. So what else we have done here in this particular thing is, many people talk about 3D printing and other things. In some of the places 3D printing won't work, because whenever you see a bone fracture, okay, bone is a brittle material and its fracture is complicated, and it's, if you see the surfaces, it has a very minute nano surfaces are there. These cannot be addressed by this type of simple geometries, or these geometries of nanoscale features cannot be developed by the 3D printing systems. For that purpose, thermosensitive injectable scaffolds are nowadays coming up, and these scaffolds can be injected. So most important thing is, because I am not presenting the rheological characterization because the paper is under review. Okay, so you can see here how the PCl, PEG, PCl, that is polycaprolactone, polyethylene glycol based bipolymer based hydrogels, and it has to basically become a semi-solid and a solid as per the structure or the bone fracture that is happened. Okay, you can see here injecting is taking place. If at all I want to inject, I have to understand the basic rheology, that is the flow properties and deformation properties. You can also do sol gel test tube inversion test, that is nothing but solution to gel, and you can do inversion test and you can check whether it is formed or not with respect to temperature. As you can see here, 32 degrees itself, it became a semi-solid. And if you go for 37 degrees, it forms a porous nature based solid, so that your male and female part grows together through the pores, and bone is an autotomy, and it forms and it joins as a single bone. That is what is the science. As I said, people are using nowadays, along with these fluids, they are also using the cells. They will take these hydrogels, and they are also putting some stem cells of the body, and they are injecting also. Okay, so the future is, if you can get knowledge, what we are doing at our laboratories is, we have the knowledge about the cell culture, we have knowledge about the injectable hydrogels, we have knowledge about all these things. So you can also get this basic knowledge of inject. Many of you may be experts in the hydrogels, many of you may be experts in cell culture. So you can club together and you can make bioinks. Bioinks are one varieties of hydrogels. People make one varieties of hydrogels, and you can make bio 3D printing and other things. Okay, so some of the applications, as you see here, basically most of the things are viscoelastic fluids. That's why I concentrated. For the fun sake, you may be eating at whenever you go for shopping and other things, these type of things. So whenever you press it, it will come. So that is also a rheology. And most importantly, wherever you are staying, you are going to paint to the walls as per your wish. Those are all require rheological characterization. Okay, so this is about some of the advertisement about me. So we have I have done 3 courses on MOOCs. These are all freely available for you. Okay, so on YouTube. So introduction to machining and machining fluids, introduction to abrasive machining and finishing fluid, and polymer assisted abrasive finishing process. If at all you want to know more about rheological aspects, some of lectures of these particular courses are imbibed with rheological characterization. Okay, so we are also expecting you people to submit good papers if you have to the journals where I am actively involved. One of the journals that I am actively involved is Precision Technology by InterScience. Another one is IBECI, which is Sage publication, where I am the editorial board member for Journal of Micro Manufacturing. If you are extensively doing on micro manufacturing, you are most welcome to submit a high quality papers. So I am also thankful for the funding agencies from IIT Gauhati, BARC, which has supported me about 5 lakhs and 23 lakhs respectively. DST, which we have recently completed about 1 crore. Then the DRDL project, which is about 76 crores. In fact, it is. Then we have at the time it was DITI. Nowadays it is called MITI. So we have a big project on biomedical devices, that is about 60 crores of rupees. And imprint projects which we have with IIT Kanpur and IISc Bangalore about 6 crores. Then IIT Tirupati 20 to 25 lakhs, and ACRB project on latest technologies that I cannot tell at this point of time, and the BIRAC. So as I said, BIRAC is biotechnology oriented. We work mostly on biotechnology oriented. These, see, without funding agencies support, we cannot do. And we also require some of the support from the research group. See, I am guy who is just representing the hard work of these people, ranging from India to Kazakhstan to Ethiopia and many, many countries, USA, Japan, China. We have a lot of collaborations and we are representing all the people. And I am very thankful for my all PhD students, master students, bachelor students, and also thankful for the summer interns. Okay. So a little help from them also is always useful for us. And thank you to all the students as well as to the funding agencies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your informative session. We will have a Q&A session, sir. Participants, please raise your hands.
Am I taken extra time, madam? No.
No, sir. We are on time.
I'm on time.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I have one question.
Please, please.
So abrasive flow finishing process, is it only useful for internal surfaces or external also it can be used?
Both.
Both external as well as internal?
Yeah.
Okay.
That is depend on how you are going to design your tooling.
Okay.
If I say you, just you can see here, there are three main elements here in this particular slide. Because I am worried about rheology, that's why I have not talked about that. Because there is a tooling here. If I am make a surface and where I can flow my rheological medium to the external surfaces, I can do. For example, in this particular thing, I am doing an external surface of my impeller only. So how do you do the tooling is most important.
Okay, sir. Thank you. We have one question from NSB. You are unmuted. You can ask your question.
Yeah. Sir, could you give the practical application of abrasive flow finishing in mechanical engineering?
I have given mostly mechanical only. So
yeah, you have quoted the example of turbine engine blade. Can you show one practical?
You can see
part?
here. This is one of the complex parts. So
okay.
some of the parts we are doing for defense. Some of the parts we are doing for. We are in negotiation with many research laboratories. So practically, wherever you require nano surface finish. For example, as I said, some of the gear systems you want in watches.
Okay.
Okay. Some of the I am doing some projects. No, in the flow, those components are coming, which I cannot deliver to you because those are defense oriented components. Another thing. Okay.
Oh.
So if these are the I have a requirement of some filters of some holes. If I want to polish these things, what I want to do, I have to polish it. See, if at all I want to polish these things, how do you polish? You need a very minute cylindrical thin cutting tool or an abrasive tool. So that is very difficult actually. If you want to do from this side to that side, it's also depend on the thickness also. So there may be a taper problems.
Okay. Sir, your work is on AFF. I have referred your papers. Can you, in your practical experience, can you tell me what kind of viscoelastic fluid is good?
Yes.
In the practical applications, which kind of viscoelastic fluid is good?
Practical, which type of viscoelastic fluid is one variety of rheological fluid.
Okay.
Which variety means what?
Can you name one viscoelastic fluid out of your practical experience? Because I referred your papers whenever there is AFF.
You name some of the things, I will tell which is better. What is your name?
I am Professor Srinivas Babu, sir.
From which?
I came to IIT Kanpur for when the Professor Jain was conducted the FDP.
I understand. You are from which institute?
Vignan.
Vignan Guntur.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Very good. So
yes,
that you might have met me.
Yes, sir.
So which type of means what do you exactly want? Because no, I want to be specifically answering.
Yeah. Exactly what I am expecting is I have read some of your papers and I have polymer based viscoelastic fluids is good. That kind of answer I am able to get. Because you have a lot of research results. Can you quote one name of viscoelastic fluid? Yeah.
You mean which polymer is good?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
See, as I said, ingredients are in the range of 5 to 10. Okay. People uses soft styrene based. People uses silicone based. People uses acrylic based. People uses PDMS based. People uses polyborosiloxane based. Many are there. Okay. So people are using varieties of things, and in my personal opinion, if you want to use anything, the first and foremost thing that you have to do is you should know the viscoelastic characteristics of all those things. Then depend on the roughness of your workpiece, you should decide how much viscous nature, how much elastic nature. Depend on that, you have to blend the polymers. One polymer never give good results.
Thank you, sir.
Hope I gave you good answer.
Yeah, yes, sir. I received the information. Thank you so much.
So you need to go minimum 5 to 6. But you need to know the basic knowledge about rheological characterization of these fluids.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Personally, write to me. There is nothing harm in it or something. We are working. This is we are working since 20 years in the abrasive flow finishing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Abdul Wahab Hashmi.
Good evening, sir. Sir, I have a question about that. Sir, you have explained about finishing, abrasive flow finishing of bio implant. So, sir, there is a one application, hip implant. So you are finishing it openly. You are finishing openly. So how will be this? Just suppose I'm working in an abrasive flow finishing. Then how will we design the fixture for this hemispherical shape?
So you need to for converse shape. That's all.
So you in that case you finish openly by filling the media.
See,
in open fixture.
You mean to say this one you are talking about?
Yes, this one, sir.
You are from institute? Whenever the person is asking question, kindly introduce yourself and ask the question.
Okay.